Literature has long served as the foundation for cinema, inspiring some of the most visually and emotionally compelling works. However, adapting literature into film requires a profound understanding of both the languages and a high level of craftsmanship. This session, titled Transforming Literary Masterpieces into Engaging Films, will explore the nuanced art of translating the poetry of words into the powerful visuality of images, guided by a master filmmaker who has dedicated his life to crafting unforgettable cinematic experiences. To conduct this session, please join us in welcoming with a warm round of applause the National Award-winning director, screenwriter, producer and actor, Mr. Gautham Menon. And now, the man whose name is synonymous to cinematic brilliance, the legend of Indian cinema, Mr. Ratnam. May I now request Srimati Brinda Manohar Desai Ma'am, Joint Secretary Films, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Government of India, to please join us on stage to felicitate our celebrated speakers. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us with the felicitation. And now over to Mr. Gautham Menon with the gracious request to commence the conversation.
Good evening, sir. There's this beautiful thought about poetry in the film Dead Poets Society, directed by Peter Weir and starring Robin Williams, which is the most favorite film of mine, after a film called Nayagan, which this man sitting next to me now. And there's a reason why I'm sitting here today on his left. The thought about poetry in Dead Poets Society is a quote, of course, but I'm going to say it here and I'm going to replace the word poetry with films because it will make sense and will resonate across why and where we are today. This is how it goes. We don't make films. We don't watch films because it's cute. We make and watch films because we are members of the human race, and the human race is filled with passion. Engineering, medicine, business, law, these are noble pursuits and very necessary to sustain life. But films, love, romance, this is what we stay alive for. Films are what we stay alive for. And I felt that every time going into a Mani Ratnam film. Knowing Mani sir had a sense of humor, I'm sure he'd ask me, how do you feel coming out of the film? But that's the thing, sir, I've never come out of a Mani Ratnam film till the next one releases. Till the next one releases, and this is not sycophancy, this is not flattery. I'm not looking to get anything from Mani sir other than some more knowledge about filmmaking and to feel alive walking into a film. But that brings me to my first question, sir. I know films is what keeps us alive. I know you felt that in your prolific career so far, but my question is, do you still feel the same?
Yeah, I feel like a beginner. an absolute beginner. Doesn't change. When I did my first film, I thought one film I'll learn everything and then I'll be a master. It's never there at all. It's still a first film every time. And you go into a shoot not knowing how to shoot, but wanting to do something and searching for it.
So you always said making films is about sharing for you. It's not about delivering a message or suggesting a change. What makes something share-worthy for you?
And I think it could be anything, it's like sharing something that bothers you, sharing something that brings joy to you, sharing something that you think is truth, is there in everybody, and if there's some form in which that can come out, then it's sharing or it's reflection, you are able to identify with something, and that is what you want to put on the screen.
And when there are so many literary masterpieces out there, why do some stories speak more to you than the others?
Well, the other literary masterpieces have not yet been made into films. If they are made, I'm sure that there will be, if that could be, even remarkable ones.
So is it all guts or is it passion? So you decide to make Ponniyin Selvan, read and loved by millions of readers who thronged the theatres to watch the film, and a whole sort of new audience that went to see what the fuss was all about. Was there ever any fear that this would turn out to be a damn squib? That, it's almost historical, characters from the past might not live up to the scale of certain other films that are in the same genre. Was there ever any fear, or did you just let that go by the wayside and just jump into it?
No, I trusted Kalki, the author, and it's been a classic. It's been the best-selling book from 1950, and it's something that I read when I was finishing school, and it's been it has everything that is calling to be made into a film. It has the scale, it has the intrigue, it has a period, it has horses, it has adventure, it has characters which are brilliant. So it is always there, asking to be made into a film. Only I didn't know that I could, but I realized that I wanted to, and that is all. So it is not, no, I was not afraid. I was afraid of how I would be able to do it, but the only way you can go is, with a film like that, with a story like that, every person who's read it, and there's millions of people who've read it in Tamil, and they all are absolute experts in it. Each one have their own vision of how each character should be, and so I was battling with not just a book, 5-volume book, but also the perception of so many readers who were passionate about it. But the only guiding factor that I had was that I was also one of the passionate readers, and I will go with what I felt that can be put on screen.
So when you read Ponniyin Selvan for the first time, and then the many versions later, the abridged versions, the translated versions, when you heard somebody narrating the story, did the visual imagery sort of come alive? So did the shots speak to you? I'm also asking this because I've read that Charles Dickens, who died 25 years before motion pictures were invented, is credited with inventing the parallel montage, the intercutting between two stories in his writing, and is also said to be the inspiration behind the track in and zoom in technique of filming through his writings. So did the writing sort of speak to you? Did the material sort of inspire you? Did the visual imagery come up then itself, or was it a process that evolved?
No, I think the visual imagery must have come across to everyone who's read the book. I mean, he's such a visual writer, and he's got a fantastic way of telling a story. It's almost intimate, it's a huge thing, but it looks like as though he's talking only to you. And his description of that period is quite elaborate, quite amazing. And only when I started doing research for the film, I realized that there's so much of accuracy in what he has done at that point of time, where the research was not as much as it is now, research material. So I think he's very graphic in his in his imagination, in his description. There's some pieces which are still, which I could not capture at all. I mean, they're still vivid in my mind from what I've read and always wanted to see, but it couldn't be fitted in. So he was the master.
So since you said that, I know you've left some chunks out from the story when you made the film. Revisiting the film or looking at the final cut, or even now as we're speaking about it, are there any moments that you felt you could have retained in the film from the story?
No, that's the thing with from literature to film. You know, there are so many pieces in the book which are brilliant. You know, I mean, each chapter is brilliant. Can be made into an individual. You know, if you're doing a long format thing, it can be done tremendously. And some of them are visually brilliant. You know, so but when you look at a film and you look at, you know, trying to bring the essence of it within a certain amount of time, you know, within one unit, I think film is seen as one flow, whereas books can be read over several periods of time. So it was important to make sure that we bring, you know, it together cogently. You know, that was more important, and not just go only for the peaks of visual beauty.
Early readings, what are the kind of books that you used to read? I'm thinking that must have influenced you, right? And I'm talking about your younger days, what kind of books you started reading? You, looking at Alepai then, OK Kanmani, you must be a Gen Z kid, so around that time, what did you read?
I think like every school kid goes through, you go through phases where you start off very early with Biggles and, you know, then move on further, and at some point of time, Ayn Rand comes into you, and then you go past it, and then this Noor comes into you, you know, I mean, so Raymond Chandler's and Philip Marlowe's come, and then you come across Graham Greene, and you come across Le Carre, you know, I mean, so it is an ongoing process till today, you know, I mean, right now I'm trying to read a Salman Rushdie book, which is called Victory City. You know, it is based on Vijayanagaram, you know, the early days and things like that. It's absolutely, it's stunning. It's like watching a film the way he writes it, you know. I mean, the mixture between fiction and fact and history is so brilliant, so amazing. So, I mean, you are influenced by everything that you've read, you know, your ability to think, to imagine has been by what you've heard as stories and what you've read as stories, and then what you see around you.
Is that a sneak peek into your next film, sir?
I wish I was that prolific.
Is there any literature from the Western world that you think will make a great Indian film? And I think it's okay to put the idea out here because nobody's going to make it as good as you. So,
I think in West they've done quite an amazing transition from literature to films. You know, quite amazing. I mean, they have a huge record, and I think here we have not had that many. Though, I mean, Ray has done. You know, R.K. Narayan's book has been done. So there are a lot more possibilities that are here. But it is ability to adapt and to make it relevant to, you know, the people who are going to watch with you. You know, that's what matters. It's not whether it is from the West or from here, but, you know, to be able to, you know, find another language in film for the same material. You know, that is what you search for. There are a lot of things, like I was telling you, this Victory City is fantastic, but I don't know how it can ever be made into a film, but it looks like a film. So I mean, quite a few books are like that, and sometimes you wonder, when I first read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, it's a novel written in first person, you know, and when you realize that that is being made into a film, I could never imagine how it could be made into a film. And then I read the play version of it, stage play version of it. And then you watch the film, you realize that the brilliance of adaptation, you know, is finding a completely different language into it. You know, not being only stuck with, if the movie had stuck to the first person narrative of that Indian, then it wouldn't have been the same. I mean, they completely reinvented it. And so it's a fascinating thing to see how the rest of them are doing it, But I've done it only once, and I've had a lot of trouble trying to convert one big piece into a film. So it's an art that we have to learn a lot more.
Since we're talking about translating your dream masterpiece into engaging cinema, how do you decide that this is engaging enough, especially with Ponniyin? The length, of course, I know you fixed it as 2 parts and you shoot a certain way and all that, but how do you decide? And finally, are you happy with how engaging it was with the audience?
As a film, no. The decision is simple. If it is engaging for you as a reader, and if you think you can convert it into a film, if you think that it is possible to find another language for it, then you get into it. And the moment you choose something, it is only after you know that it is engaging for you. And you are the best judge of what works for you. And the belief is that if it works for you, it should reach quite a few people at least. So you go with that. You can't all the time. I feel that you can't all the time wonder whether this will be liked by so-and-so, this will be liked by the people. I think you have to trust your instinct, basically I'm a film watcher. I'm a cinegoer, I've been all that. So I'm still that. I'm still one of the persons sitting in the audience. And I try to, see what I like and try to see whether I can get there.
I know he said he feels like a beginner, but a whole generation of filmmakers will agree with me that this year is the master, and I'm so happy to be in conversation with him. Is there any character from literature that you feel is close to who you are?
No one can come anywhere near me. Sorry about that. I meant that no one can be as confused, as not sure, as everything.
And I know I asked you, films are what we stay alive for, and I think you kind of walked over the question because Suhasini ma'am is in the crowd.
Absolutely.
So, who killed Aditya Karikaran, sir?
Do you know?
No, also the question is also because you chose to film it a certain way. There are so many people in that room, assuming all of us have watched Ponniyin Selvan, there are so many people in the room. And I think the book or the story also has that. It's a little bit of a, nobody knows, right? You chose to play it that way. Weren't you tempted to call it your own? I mean, most of your films have been that, right? You had an interpretation of Ravana in Ravanam. You had Karna and Arjuna in Talapati, which I want to talk to you about also. Weren't you tempted to say, I'm sorry, but Nandini killed Aditya Karikaran?
No, I think in history it is a mystery. So there's no point in trying to reinvent history. They still don't know who killed Aditya Karikaran. There's no document which says this is what happened.
Sorry to interrupt you. These characters there's also talk that they're fictional characters, right? These three.
Not really. Aditya Karikaran was not fictional.
Okay.
He was real. He was murdered, and they still haven't got. There's few of them who have been accused, who have been driven out of land, and then their interpretations with that. So that Kalki maintained that mystery. He did not. In fact, he maintained it really, covered it up completely. Didn't be, you can only guess. Whereas on film, sometimes you have to, film is something which is very immediate. Unlike a book, which lets you imagine and find your own ways of looking at it. In film, it's there, right in front of you, on the screen. It's a 2-dimension, which pretends to be 3-dimension. And you have to be there. And the only way we looked at it was that the character that was fictional in the entire novel, amongst several others, was Nandini. She was the main character who was completely fictional. And therefore, you led towards the two of them and brought in there the assassination that happened. It could have been her, it could have been the Pandya's conspirators, it could have been that. That's how the book goes, and that's how I think I could go. To say 100% that Nandini killed him, then I'm asking why, and then you have to answer, and then why did he let him kill her? All those have to be answered, which will take quite a bit of drama to be played across. So I didn't want to reinvent it, and felt that if you brought the drama up to that, to make that believable, make their relationship, make the conflicts, reach a high point, and then you just move forward.
So engaging cinema also means the actors have to be right. I heard that Vijay could have been one of the actors in the film earlier when your first draft of Ponniyin was being made. And then I don't know what your idea of the actors were, but did it actually make a difference, or to engage cinema like that, or it didn't really make a difference? Sir?
No, it does. I think cinema is such a, though it sounds like a cliche, it's such a collective medium. If you're going to change one element in the making, there will be definite shades of difference. Huge change. If you can't imagine Nayakan without Kamala Hassan. It makes that much of a difference. The story could have been the same, but the way it comes out is the same. Similarly, possibly, I can't imagine him without PC Sriram there. So every person brings some value, and as a director, your job is to get each one of them to invest something into your film, and it makes all the difference. Actors bring life into your paper. What is on paper is just inanimate, and they make it believable. They make the characters breathe, and that you go beyond the story and look at the person.
That's so true. The only reason why some of us haven't picked up Nayakan to remake it or make it again is because we can't think of anybody else in Kamal Sir's shoes. A lot of these films are being made now, Day of the Jackal, and it works. But I've been toying with the idea for quite some time, but I can't even think of anybody filling Kamal Sir's shoes. But the visual imagery itself, so I want to talk to you about that. How do you decide that this is the way? I know there are some sort of graphical images from the novel and from when it came into one of the publications later and all that, but how do you decide that this is how Nandini will look, and this is the mood of the palace, and this is where I'm going to shoot this particular scene? Is there a lot of thought that goes into it, or it just comes out?
I wish it comes out like that. I've been dreaming. I think in this particular case, the illustrator, Maniam, had very definite, clarity on how the character looked. People have, whoever's read it, in their mind it's etched how Nandini is. She is with a certain kind of a hairstyle, and that had to be there to define her as Nandini. And so what we do is, when the first time we see Nandini, we'll make sure that it is close to that image. But after that you can, go with the way the scene is. Only thing that we had wanted to do was to make it look like it happened. It really happened. That there is, that it is not a set. It is not just something which is shot in a studio, and not something which is shot inside a floor and things like that. But it should breathe. There should be sunlight. There should be dirt. There should be sweat. You should feel that you are there, or we are at that point of